Goliath Beetles, Giant Insects. Written by Ryan James. Focus question. What features allow the Goliath beetle to live in the tropical rainforests and dry grasslands of Africa? Biggest beetle. Striped like a zebra and as agile as an acrobat, the Goliath beetle is one amazing insect. Goliath beetles grow as big as sparrows and weigh nearly twice as much. Their larvae are even bigger. It's no wonder Goliath beetles are considered giants of the insect world. Giant insects. Fossils from 300 million years ago prove there were once dragonflies with hawk-sized wingspans. But scientists think Goliath beetles have reached the size limit for modern insects. Earth's atmosphere contains less oxygen now than it did millions of years ago. With less oxygen in the air, monster insects, at least monsters bigger than Goliath beetles, are a thing of the past. A few modern-day beetles beat the Goliath in the length department. Rhinoceros beetles have massive horns that nearly double their overall body length. However, they can't compare to Goliath beetles' body size or weight, so Goliaths win as the heavyweight champs. All kinds of beetles. The name Goliath beetle actually refers to 6 separate, related types of beetles. Most have black stripes on all or part of their bodies, which led early British scientists to call them zebra beetles. No two beetles' markings are identical, even within a single Goliath species. That makes it hard to identify various types of Goliath beetles. Over the years, insect scientists thought they had identified over 24 different types of Goliath beetles. Today, though, experts agree that there are only 6 types. Beetles everywhere. You've probably noticed ladybugs and other kinds of beetles in your neighborhood. They might not appear to be much like Goliath beetles, but they have several features in common with the larger insects. For instance, all beetles have 2 pairs of wings. Large, softer hind wings used for flying, and smaller, harder front wings. The front wings act like sturdy, protective armor and completely cover the more delicate hind wings when they aren't in use. Insects have mouths that have adapted for different purposes. A butterfly's mouth is suited for sipping nectar, and a mosquito's mouth is suited for piercing skin. While beetles do sip tree sap, their mouths are particularly well suited for chewing. Many kinds of beetles can be found on flowers, where they feed on pollen or flower petals. Goliath beetles, however, probably don't feed on flowers. Scientists think the supersized insects are too heavy for flowers to support their weight. What makes a Goliath beetle an insect? All insects have wings, legs with joints, most have 6, 3 main body parts, head, thorax, and abdomen, an outside skeleton. All in the family. There are more than 100 different families of beetles. In scientific terms, an animal family is a group that shares similar features. Goliath beetles belong to the scarab beetle family, a group that also includes rhinoceros and dung beetles. All beetles use their antennae to detect odors and chemicals in their environment. Scarab beetles' antennae have a special shape, with separate, overlapping plates that can open like a fan. Opening the antennae increases their size, which scientists believe makes the antennae more sensitive. Goliath beetles use their antennae to detect food, such as rotting fruit. Male beetles also use their antennae to find mates. Speedy beetles. You might think giant beetles would be slow and clumsy, but not Goliaths. They're so skillful at flying that early insect collectors had to shoot Goliath beetles out of the sky to catch them. Even today, scientists have trouble getting near them. Scientist Dr. Brett Ratcliffe explains, they are very difficult to observe in nature. Much of what scientists know about Goliath beetles comes from studying captive insects. How do scientists find captive insects? Luckily, quite a few insect fans like to raise Goliath beetles as pets. Wowzer! Beetle cold case. Workers at London's Natural History Museum found several holes punched through the body of a Goliath beetle in the museum's collection. A scientist recently showed that the holes were actually gunshot wounds. X-rays revealed a shotgun pellet still inside the beetle's body. On the basis of the location of the wounds on the body, the scientist reported that the beetle was shot while flying, upside down. An African home. Goliath beetles live in tropical rainforests and dry grasslands in Africa. These areas are warm year-round, with a dry season that lasts several months of the year. Wild Goliath beetles feed on fruit that grows during the wet season. While they have mouths for chewing, they also feed on tree sap, which is most common during the wet season's warm, humid conditions. Sharp claws help them scratch through bark to reach the sweet sap underneath. Goliath beetles sometimes gather on trees where food is plentiful. However, Goliaths spend most of their time on their own. They are not social insects, says Dr. Ratcliffe. Male Goliath beetles defend the best feeding sites against intruders. The heads of all male Goliaths have Y-shaped horns, which they use to push away other males. Scientists think that claiming the best feeding sites may help males attract females. Female Goliath beetles dig deep into the soil when they are ready to lay eggs. They may lay up to 100 eggs at a time. The eggs hatch after about 2 weeks, and the young larvae come out. The eyeless, wingless larvae spend all their time eating and growing. They feed on rotting plant matter in the soil. They may also eat smaller beetle larvae and adult insects. Goliath larvae reach full size in about 4 months. The larger species can grow up to 5 inches, 12.7 centimeters, in length, about as long as a dollar bill. They can weigh up to 3.5 ounces, 100 grams, about the same as 5 mice. The circle of life. When the wet season ends, the larvae burrow deeper underground until they reach sandy soil. There, they build thin-walled cells similar to butterfly cocoons. Inside each cell, over the next several months, a larva's body goes through changes and turns into its adult form. Wings and legs grow and fold into place, and the outside of the body hardens into a protective shell. The adult Goliath beetle remains in hibernation inside the earthen cell until the end of the dry season. When the wet season begins again, moisture seeps through the ground. When it reaches the cell, the hibernating beetle wakes and the cycle begins again. In captivity, adults can survive about 8 months. In the wild, though, Goliath beetles must find food and escape enemies. For these reasons, their life in the wild is probably much shorter. Scientists think that monkeys and large birds might eat Goliath beetles, if they can catch them. Goliath beetles do such a good job of hiding in treetops that no one knows for sure. An immensely interesting insect. Most of us have probably never seen insects larger than a grasshopper. Imagine his reaction when a Navy doctor fished the first known Goliath beetle from an African river in 1766. Since then, these giant beetles have interested insect fans everywhere. No wonder, with their enormous size and flashy stripes, Goliath beetles are a sight to behold. Goliaths are speedy flying machines, heavyweight champs, and all-around awesome insects.